Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I'm here with one more project for the September mini release. So I am using Jaded Blossom's Gnome Dies Monster Add Ons. They're Gnome Dies. They're Gnome Dies Sign Add Ons. They're Ticket Book Dies. They're Halloween Scenic Dies. Their Spooky Season stamp set, along with their Halloween Signs stamp set. And I put, I'm also using this Sweet and Spooky 6-inch pad and the matching odds and ends from Doodlebug. And I put together this little werewolf and the little moon on the Gnome Dies Monster Add Ons assembly video, so check that out. So first I have a piece of paper here from Doodlebug cut at 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card front. There we go. I've got an A2 size card base made out of paper tray ink black cardstock, cut at 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches with my Martha Stewart scoreboard and my Teflon bone folder. And I'm just going to use some Barely Art glue, and I'll stick down my background, and I will weigh it down with some acrylic blocks. So I cut out that Scenic die with some smoky shadow cardstock from paper tray ink, and then I cut out the layering die out of white paper tray ink cardstock. And now I'm taking that same die and I'm kind of lining up where I want to cut that die for my background, because my background will all be on that ticket book die. So there we go. You saw how I lined that up with where the white was. And then there's my ticket book. And then there's my white layer and my smoky shadow layer from paper tray ink. So the paper tray ink black cardstock as well. So now I am also using paper tray ink dark chocolate cardstock, and I cut this fence out a few times. And I'm just going to be layering it, and it will layer right across the card base, as well as my little ticket book center. So you'll see how I make that work in just a second here. I'm trying to cover up the little notches in between. And I'm going to line up that fence strategically so I can do that. So I do cut out a little sign from that Gnome Dies Sign Add Ons with some Nina Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock. Okay, so I do cut out 2 of those black ticket books, the backgrounds, out of black paper tray ink cardstock. And now I'm pulling out the balloon stencil from Jaded Blossom, and that's going to become my moon. No one knows but you and me, right? It's circular, it'll work. So I'm just sort of lining it up where I want my moon. I will tape that down with some masking tape there. I think it's 3M tape or Post-it tape or whatever it is. There we go. No, that's actually mint tape, sorry, from scrapbook.com. Okay, and I'm pulling out Scattered Straw Distress Oxide ink and a blending brush, and I'm going to blend that on quite heavily. There we go. And now Jaded Blossom luckily has the little relief cuts, right, to mask it. So I'm going to put that down, and I will tape that in place with some of that same mint tape. And I'm pulling out Villainous Potion Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to ink blend that around the moon. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a little background. And I think it's super fun. And I'm going to pull out now Black Soot Distress Oxide ink. And I've got another little blending brush, and I'm going to blend that around the whole outside. So I'm hopefully going for a blend transitioning between purple and black is what I'm going for. Just going to ink blend over top of that purple again, trying to go back and forth, right? And there we go. And I'll peel off my background. And isn't that cute? Okay, so you see what I do? I sort of tape these ticket books on opposite ends. See? So I sort of overlap them, right? So now I have one big ticket book without that stitching on the bottom. And I'm going to put that down, and I'm lining it up right in the center of the card, and it fits an A2 size card base perfectly. Now I'm going to stick down my little blended piece. That's the layer, and it has the stitching, and I'm going to line that up in my little ticket book shadow layer. And this was also cut with that same layer die, so I'm going to stick that down with some ATG tape and some Barely Art glue for the little pieces, you know. Just trying to make sure everything is stuck down. So I sort of centered my cut on this super spooky house with the kind of the graveyard. I thought that looked super cute. Now I'm going to line that up, you see, kind of toward the bottom of it, right? So it looks like it's all one big ticket book. Now on the inside, I'm going to quickly add a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock that's cut at 4 by 5¼ inches. And I'm going to add that to the inside of my card interior, right, with some ATG tape. And now I have a couple of strips of cardstock. So first, that one is 1¼ inches of Doodlebug orange cardstock. And then I'm adding a strip of paper from that same Sweet and Spooky 6-inch pad. Just a 1-inch strip. And then I'll add those to the bottom, kind of using my Stampin' Up! Pad to kind of, get things as straight as I can get them. There we go. And then I will cut off the overhang with a pair of scissors here. So a nice and easy design. Now I have 2 images I'm going to put on the inside. And they're pulled from that same Doodlebug Sweet and Spooky line. That's from the Odds and Ends. And I'm distracted here for a second. So there we go. And I'm just going to be pulling out some foam squares first. So I decide to pop up my little wolf first, I guess. Oh, no, I don't. Boy, I'm back and forth. I'm sorry, guys. So there is my little werewolf and the moon, and that is from the Doodlebug's Sweet and Spooky Odds and Ends. I kind of like to mimic what I have going on the outside, on the inside. So this is a cute little werewolf and a moon, and I'm just going to layer them on the right-hand side, overlapping them a bit, using Barely Art glue. I'll add a number 10 secure white jelly roll marker, and I'm just going to add a few little highlights to this little guy for no rhyme or reason, just for a little bit of fun details. And like I said, these don't have to be perfect. It's just for fun, right? And I add a couple while the moon's sitting there. I figure I might as well add a couple more of those. So there we go. I will cut off that overhang with a pair of scissors again. I'm going to put this in my Misty. I've got one of those waffle flower grip mats in there to hold it in place, which is fun. And now I'm pulling out my Spooky Season stamp set from Doodlebug. And I'm going to use the Happy Halloween sentiment. So I'm just pulling out, that is a Simon Says Stamp little grid acetate mat. And I use that to line up my sentiments on my card just to make sure they're straight. My voice was cutting out, sorry guys. I'm going to take my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink and then I'll stamp that. I'll stamp it a few times, just don't push too hard, right? You don't want to squish your letters. Make them look bigger than they're, wider than they're supposed to be. There we go. I will cover that up with some of that mint tape just because while it's drying, it can smear. So now I am lining up my little fence so it covers that little overlap part of my ticket book. And I'm just going to cut 3 of these fences the same length. And there we go. There you have it. And then I will figure out what's hanging off. So what I want to do is I want to have that fence go straight across my card, but I don't need it as thick going across the front as I do on the sides, because remember I have a few layers now built up with that ticket book. So I just want to have 2 layers on each side, right? And then just 1 layer going across the middle. So I'm just going to stack, so I sort of cut the ends off that fence that I cut out. And I'm just going to double up on the ends, doing that with some Barely Art glue. And then I'll do the same on the other end. So that is dark chocolate cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. One of my favorite browns. I just think it's a great color. And then I'm going to line that up, like I said, sort of straddling that ticket book. And remember, I'm trying to hide that little area where those ticket books where there's that little notch out. So you can sort of see a line. And I'm going to hide that with my fence. So remember, we have a lot of dies at Jaded Blossom, and you don't have to use them for exactly what they're meant to be. See, those are the 2 little overlap points. So I'm just going to cover that up with the fence, and no one will know but you and me. There we go. Yeah, I use treat boxes all the time for, on cards. Anything like that you can make work. Okay, so now I am going to add my cute little werewolf to the front of the card. And I'm just figuring out where it's going to go. So I'll have it in the lower right-hand corner, and I'm just going to use kind of the leftover pieces from these Stampin' Up! Dimensionals to kind of pop this guy up. You can use any kind of foam squares, whatever your preferences is. You could even cut a bunch of the background silhouettes out and sort of stack them up if you wanted to use paper. That would also work. But I like my foam squares. I love my dimension. So there we go. So I'm just sort of pulling that all up. Now, I did have some questions. Most of my die cutting is done with my Anna Griffin Empress. I just got a new mini. I'm loving that. As for the sandwich, I use all the recommended sandwiches, including the metal plate. And I also use my Gemini machine. It's a Gemini, the large one, the large cutter that's 8.5 by 11. And I use all the plates with that one as well, including the metal shim. And I love both of them. They're both wonderful, right? If I'm doing smaller stuff, I use my Empress Mini. If I'm doing lots of stuff, I'll use my large Gemini machine. They both are great cutting machines. Okay, so now I'm going to just add a few little of the separate pieces that you can cut out for the fence. Cut out of that same dark chocolate cardstock. I'm just going to add a couple. And there we go. So now I'm pulling out that Halloween Signs stamp set. And I'm going to freehand stamp on that little sign. It'll say Werewolf. Just trying to make sure it's going to stamp well. Just using an acrylic block, kind of old-timey stamping, right? And it'll say Hugs. So Werewolf Hugs, so just kind of fun, right? There we go. So there's my little sign. And I'm going to have it kind of hanging on the fence. So I'm trying to figure out where it's going to go. So I'm going to add one more little fence post. I'm just going to put glue on the bottom. And using my reverse tweezers, I'll just kind of line things up. And I'm going to slide that little sign behind that fence post. There we go. And then I'll add a little bit of glue behind the top of the fence post, just using a scrap piece of paper there. And then I will stick it down. So there we go. So Werewolf Hugs. Kind of cute, right? Now on the inside, I'm going to use a leftover piece of this fence. I figure we might as well. And I'll just add it with that Barely Art glue. I'll have that hanging off the side, and I will trim off the overhang with a pair of scissors. So easy stuff. And I think it just adds something to the inside of my card. Now I'm going to add a white string to this little sign. That's cut out of Paper Trank white cardstock. There we go. Isn't that cute? I just love this. I love using these little signs. The Gnome Die sign add-ons are super fun. So now I'm pulling out Altenews Essential Dots, and these are the black and white essential ones. And I'm using the little white stars and my pen blade to pick them up. I'm going to put 5 of them on. And I accidentally peel the sticky off a couple, which is a mistake. But what I'll end up doing is I'll just add those last 2 with glue, which is okay, because I do it to 2 of them. So I'm just going to place 2 more with some Barely Art glue, visual triangles and all that stuff. And I'm going to use my Studio Katia embellishment wand to pick them up. It has a little wax tip. Now you could use any company. They're all, they're all the same. They work well. And there we go. So cute. So now I'm pulling out, these are Studio Katia's Glow Mini Stars. So they glow in the dark, which is lots of fun. And I'm going to be adding a bunch of them to the front of this card. Now, because they are, they're small and they're just kind of iridescent, they don't really, it doesn't really look super busy because they kind of blend in a bit to the card, but I wanted to put a bunch of them on there. So I'm just sticking these all over the place, willy-nilly, because I want the front of the card to glow in the dark, because that'll be lots of fun, right? There we go. So I'm just adding them all to the little tiny dots of glue. So this is a super fun mini release. You're going to want to get your hands on this one. Lots of fun for Halloween. You can use them for, use some of this stuff for other seasons as well, which is lots of fun. So I'm just adding on all those little pieces. There we go. And isn't that fun? I just think that these little glow-in-the-dark stars are so fun. I figured I'll add a couple to the inside too. Why not? So I'll just pick those up and pop them in place. And like I said, super easy card design, lots of fun. And there we go. So much fun. So I think I'm going to add a couple more because I'm, do I go overboard on them? A little bit, but I can't help it. When you see them, in the dark, they just look fabulous. There we go. Okay, so now I'm in the darkest room in the house, and there are the glow-in-the-dark stars on this card. Isn't that fun? So thanks everybody for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, the Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on this amazing release. And thank you as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. And come back and see another one soon. Bye everybody.